Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Lipedema Wellness Conversations with Gail. That would be me. And my friend, Catherine Seo. Hi, Catherine. Catherine was my first guest, which was last week, and we had so much to talk about that we decided to have her come back. I'm two people, I guess. Anyway, so we decided to come back together again today and share a few more things about what Catherine has done to get Lipedema Simplified off the ground and to you. Um, Catherine started, she says, with her community in 2011, which is amazing. That's 11 years ago. And she has done so many things just searching for answers for herself. And so, with that, I would like to ask Catherine to share how she went from just looking for answers for herself to helping others find answers. Catherine, you developed a community, a global community, with just wanting to find answers. Can you tell us how your global community started?
Thank you so much, Gail. It's always so much fun to hang out with you. And thank you, but I have to say it's our community. The one thing that I found, and I think this is true for everything, is that there are certain things that you really can't do alone. The quote that I use is alone we can do so little, together we can do so much. I knew, like so many other women, I knew something was wrong. And I knew that unless I found an answer, and mine was pretty tough, I was going to end up in a wheelchair. Actually, I was losing capacity for my arms and my legs, which was not a fun was not a fun, future predicament. I just knew I needed to get answers, and I didn't have answers. I had a lot of questions. And I think the turning point for me, I have a dear friend, Barbara, and she was a walking buddy. And we would walk about around Fresh Pond in Cambridge. Fresh Pond. It used to take us an hour. It's maybe 2 miles. Then I was much more limber and younger. And anyway, and I just started to do a lot of research and a lot of trying to figure out what was going on. And I got a contact from Michelle Ellis, who started the Lipedema Ladies Facebook group in the UK. And I ended up joining a couple of Facebook groups, like we all do when we start out. What is this? Is this real? Oh, and one of the things that I noticed is that our stories were all very similar. We had tried to find answers for years. We ended up thinking that it was us, that we had done something wrong. I'll talk about myself. I had felt like it was my fault. And then as I would hear people's stories on Facebook, and at that point we weren't into Zoom. This was a long time ago. And so Michelle sent me an invite. There was going to be a weekend gathering, a one day, an evening and a day in Birmingham in the UK. And so she invited me. And I was like, I can't. So Barbara and I are walking around Fresh Pond. And I'm like, I can't go to England. I mean, that's crazy. How can I go to England for a weekend? And I did. So she, Barbara, bless her heart, she said to me, you can't not go. It's as simple as that. You just can't not go. And so what ended up happening, I went to the UK. I thought I was going to die. I've never been as scared in my entire life when I was driving from Heathrow to Birmingham, trying to figure out how the hell to stay on the opposite side of the road. I couldn't figure out the turnabouts, what we call them rotaries, the turnabouts. And oh my God, it was so funny. There was one moment where I said, "This is it. I'm going to die right here. I'm never going to make it." But anyway, I did make it. And I walked into a room of 50 or 60 women, all who had lipedema. And
Wow.
I don't think there's ever been a moment like that in my entire life where I said, "This is my tribe. I found my tribe."
You must
Um,
have you must have felt validated for the very first time that it
well,
wasn't just in your head, that it wasn't just you.
well, I have a very long history in a 12-step program for overeating. And I am. I mean, you know, eating is one of my favorite activities still after all these years. And I don't, for the most part, I don't overeat. I mean, I'm either keto or carnivore or alternate day fasting and always intermittently fasting. I mean, I do all the right things, but I have lipedema and I could never figure it out for I was on a very low carb food plan for 27 years. And, I could never figure out how come other people in the room, we all ate the same thing. It was all the same food plan. And how I could, even at my lowest, still be on the obesity charts. I was in the 170s, which is still considered obese for 5'2", when I would be standing besides, and I would go to lunch with these women, and we would all weigh and measure our food, even in a restaurant, and we would eat the same thing, and they would be like skinny mini, and I could never figure it out. I just knew something was wrong, and I did everything under the sun. So that's like what the how of what got me there. The why was the relationships, the connections, the being able to sit. So I spent the weekend in the UK and I went back that year 3 or 4 times. I ended up going to Germany and spending quite a bit of time in Germany. And along the way, it's all relationship. It's all, you know, here, what's your story? Tell me your story. I want to hear your story. And when you hear literally hundreds and hundreds of stories, you begin to be able to piece it all together and to see something much larger. Um, we often talk about it as the helicopter view. If you can get to the point where you can see it high enough, you can begin to see what's going on a much larger scale. And that's the process that happened in community, because your question really was about community. I am um, so delighted at the way the community has emerged, because there really isn't a leader per se. For sure, we do a lot of work and we do a lot of structuring in order to allow the community to interact. Like now, here we
Right.
are, we're talking, and we're talking to, a whole bunch of ladies. But one of the things that was missing is I want to hear Stina and Edith and Marilee and Susan and Bobby and Angela and all. I want to hear you. We conversation and Lisa.
Yep.
Um and it's like that was limited until we started to do more on Zoom. We started on Zoom way before the pandemic. I mean, we started
Right.
in Zoom like years before the pandemic. And I often think it's just so odd how the universe works because I just had the oddest set of skills, and technology is one of them. I'm way too old to be as geeky as I am, but I love technology. I love putting all this together. And I mean, I love it. I don't like it, but I could do it for days and days and days and never get bored or tired because it's always something new. And that's what we're doing. So, our upcoming 3-day event is about community at its very core. It's about, well, it's called Heart to Heart, Lipedema and Lymphedema, Heart to Heart. And we have amazing speakers coming, but we have a community ready to interact, to hear a speaker. And then I don't know about you, but I'm the one who always, be sitting next to someone in a conference, and I'm the one that goes, "Oh, did you hear what he said? And my God, what do you think?" And so, it is so much a part of all of the conferences and everything that we've done. And now we've found a way to do it online so that we can really delve into and explore our stories because we know so much. We know our bodies better than 99.9% of the healthcare providers that we go to see.
Right.
You too, Gail. You had that same process. I remember when we first began to talk, which was a few years ago, and
Right.
your interest.
And see, for me, I never thought, "Oh, there's something wrong with my legs." I thought there's something wrong with me as a human being. Not even as there's something wrong with my body, but I thought I was pretty much morally corrupt, that in some way I have done something wrong, to deserve the and I say obesity in quotation marks because I could sit and I could watch my husband eat 3 or 4 hamburgers and big piles of potato salad, and I'm over here with my leafy greens and my bunless burger, and I can't lose weight. And I thought, why am I the one who's being punished? Right. And so I went through that whole thing. Once I once I realized what insulin does, the whole part of going keto and low carb and everything, and I lost some weight, someone mentioned my legs and said, "You might have lipedema. Have you ever heard of Leslie Keith or Catherine Seo?" And I went into denial for a while. And then I said, "Okay." And I started in going to the webinars that were being held by Lipedema Simplified sometime in 2018.
Hmm.
But I did not become brave enough to reach out until like early 2019. And once I did that, it was, aha, Gail, you're doing everything right. There's more to this than what you know. And like I've told people, I've told you, 20 minutes later, after sobbing so hard that I could hardly breathe, because finally I had found someone who heard me, someone who told me I wasn't crazy, and someone who told me that it's not my fault. I mean, and then I realized, oh, and then you know, it was you. I talked to you, and I couldn't believe the wonderful Catherine Seo actually like visited with me, right? But then now, what I find in the community, that because you said I don't like to play in the sandbox alone. Your sandbox is no longer a sandbox. It's like a beach. I mean, it's just gotten so big, you know, and there's something for everybody in it. And once I found that from with once I became involved with the community and I hear everyone's stories, I'm just impressed with not only that their story is my story is your story, but the other part of the story is that they haven't had community.
Mm-hmm.
And now that they have it, they're so grateful for it. They feel empowered, they feel seen, they feel heard. But even though they knew they had lipedema, they didn't really start finding answers until they found the community. That's a tremendous power. We have some people who are on right now. I see the names, like right now we have Lisa and Stina, Marilee. I see them quite often inside the community, um, and it's just this brilliance. And I like to know how you. I love to hear how you said, you know what, we need to we need to go on to Zoom even more than we already are. And that happened in 2020.
Yeah, that was. Oh, hi everybody. Bella's here. Bella knows when we're doing lives, and she comes.
Hi.
So this is
Hi,
Bella.
Bella. Bella's a sweetie.
She really is. So she comes here and purrs. Um, well, it was. I'm always like, there were so many pieces going on simultaneously, but um, I had gotten to the point where my mobility was almost gone. And one of the comorbidities that many of us have is osteoarthritis. And in my attempt to do everything right, I had injured my adductor muscle doing pigeon in a yoga class. Pigeon is a pose. And and it was very, very difficult to heal. And I was actually in Europe with it. And anyway, when I came back from Europe, I came back very, 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 very sick. And what took me quite a while. And one of the upshots of it is that I lost my mobility. I could get around with a walker. It's a funny thing. Everything is this very simple, day by day, small little changes. And it's not like you go from walking one day and not walking another day, but slowly over time, there's a diminishment. And I started with a cane, and then I needed, a walker. And then a friend of mine got me a walker with wheels on it. I mean, it was this watching this process. Well, in September of 2019, long story, I'm not going to go through it. I had surgery, I had a hip replacement. And by the beginning of 2020, I was in the process of being able to begin to regain my mobility again. And the pandemic happened. And just before the pandemic happened, I had been working with a coach, and she suggested that we start a membership group so that the community could solidify, so that we could actually know each other's names, have conversations, really. And the first thing that I did, because I had been going to physical therapy and I loved, let me say that again, I loved my pool. I would go to the pool almost every day. and I could feel, myself getting better and all of that. And then the pandemic happened. And so the first thing that I did is I asked people if they would join me in an exercise class. And that's how we started Miranda, because I could see that my mobility was getting more and more impinged on. So, anyway, we started Miranda. And I mean, in the beginning, there was one time very early on where I went to do an exercise, and the next thing I knew, I was on the floor and couldn't get up. And
No.
everybody's on Zoom and they're like, "Do you need help? Do you want us to call?" I says, "No." "Want us to call the police?" "No, that's okay. I'll figure this out."
Oh my God.
Anyway, uh, but we were together, and it still is. I mean, you now run the Miranda 5 days a week, and people ask why those days. Well, it's Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And the reason it wasn't on Tuesdays is because that's the day I would go to physical therapy. So I couldn't do it on Tuesdays originally when we first started this. I would have a Zoom physical therapy session. Anyway, it was like watching this whole thing grow. And there's wonderful work that I've been involved in for years around how systems come together, self-organizing systems. It's work by someone named Margaret Wheatley, and she's written a number of books. And I did a lot of work with her when I was consulting at uh, in a corporate environment, to how do groups operate, how do we come together, how do we grow together, how do we support each other. I mean, we're a bunch of very strong-willed women all around the world. And it's like, how do you survive when everybody has their own opinion about everything? And, there's just all these complexities. But somehow um, the other knowledge is Scott Peck. Wonderful. He wrote a book called The Road Less Traveled, and he talks about community at the core and moving beyond what he calls pseudo community or fake community to authentic community. And that's something I've always seen as what we hold, what we do with our membership group. And I think that that's really very critical for what we do and who we are.
Right. And I do know that many of the women, like, um, we just got someone who said, yes, this is real. Harrietta Richard, she hit it right on the head. It's real. It's, there are so many things that we do that we never feel a connection in. I mean, we're part of several, social groups or whatever, but we don't necessarily feel a connection, a sense of belonging. We might not trust everybody in a group. We might not trust that we're safe enough to be able to express our views. And that's that pseudo community. And when we start getting into the real authentic community, we got to go through a little bit of building trust, building a sense of belonging, a sense of connection. And when we do that, then we're able to constantly turn back to that community for strength. And I remember you have I always said, the the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, right? That
Mhm.
concept. And that's truly what this community is. It's greater, and it has a life of its own
Mhm.
too.
It has
I
a
think,
life of its own.
right.
I just
So,
repeated what you said. That's all. It has a life of its own.
well, you'll say things every now and then like, "I didn't mean to start this business, but it
No,
has a life of its own."
it has a life of its own. I,
right?
in the early days, I kept saying to myself, if someone had told me when I was struggling in my 20s, I would have had a different life. Now, I had the life that I had, and I don't want to change it at this point in time because it's been an incredible life, but I'm like, so much suffering around my body, around, trying and trying and failing, and inevitably always failing. It didn't matter how many degrees I got. I got a whole bunch of degrees. That's one of the compensating when you don't feel so good about yourself. I have plenty of degrees. I have like three or four of them, five of them.
You go get a master's, you go get a doctorate, you go
Right. It's like, and that was the question that you asked is what was the shift? The shift was realizing. So when we started, there wasn't a lot of information about lipedema and all the different things that we talk about. We talk about compression and MLD and how to use the pump and skincare and keto and carnivore and all the physical aspects and mindset and the emotional aspects and the psychological aspects and social connection. And I mean, there's just a whole body of knowledge that's grown out of all of our interactions. And it was realizing that what our community wants is an opportunity to get knowledge, but to talk to one another, to find out, well, how do you do this? How do you do this? And this is great. Nancy says, if I had known what I know now, I would have been more confident, enjoyed life more, and not worried about how my body looked. We need to let these young women know that they can be free. That is such a great quote, Nancy. Thank you. Because that's really true. And I think that was part of our motivation. And when I met Leslin came and she had a key that turned things because, when her research was around the ketogenic way of eating, and that ketogenic way of eating started to make a difference. And that was in 2016. It was right when I came back from Europe. I met her in 2015, and then in 2016 we ended up partnering and saying, well, let's give it a try and put, a couple groups together. And we didn't know when we started if it was going to work. No idea. The first woman who emailed us, um, she said, I've been trying for years. I don't know what happened. It's like magic. I lost 30 pounds. And Leslie and I both were like, oh my God, it's working. And so the more that it's working and the more the community got involved and the more we had uh, many, 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 many women who've lost, 200. One woman lost over 300 pounds. Lots of women have lost 40 and 50 and 80 pounds. And in the midst of all of that, I still struggle. And, I think it's like kind of a weird twist because I still struggle. But there are some of us that do, and I just happen to be one of them. But I still celebrate the successes of how many women we've had that have been able to reduce pain and reduce swelling and to really manage, when we talk about it, live their best life
Right.
with the diseases.
Regardless, right, regardless of how much they weigh, regardless of all that, and we help them learn to love themselves. It's not an easy journey to learn to love yourself, and I know that we have been able to learn to love ourselves also. And that's what's difficult. It's hard to teach somebody how to love themselves, really, when you can't love yourself,
Yeah,
right? So
right.
as we go through these, and Catherine, I'm looking at the time. I know you gave me carte blanche on how long I can go on this, and you know me and you, we can go forever and ever. And I just want to share what Lynetta said. Um, Tomorrow can be better than today, next week better than this week. Over time, we can be stronger physically, emotionally, spiritually. There is a somewhat unknown reality for not making the effort. It is chronic and progressive. We really have no choice but to strive for health, self care, and self acceptance, right?
And
We don't have a choice.
self-compassion.
And,
Self-compassion. I need to add that.
and,
Self-compassion.
and self compassion. And I want to share, we're having this 3-day event coming up in October, and it's all about this. It's all about building connections. It's all about um, finding um, the compassion within ourselves, asking ourselves questions that to help ourselves find answers and others. It's called Heart to Heart. It's it's very different. It's not a webinar. It's not a symposium. It's an event, and Catherine has been brilliant in finding this style, this format of an event, and she's putting all of her all into it right now. And I'm going to see what I can post here. Um, I'm going to put a save the date into our chat. I want to make sure I get it copied. The last time I did something else, I'm going to put the save the date into the chat. It is October 21st, 22nd, and 23rd. It's also here. We're calling it Heart to Heart. It's a 3-day event. It's one of those events that you're not going to just want to put in your headphones and have it running in the background. It's an event that you're going to want to come to and be present for. You're going to want to schedule off some time so that you can actually participate, because it's interactive. You're going to be participating with everybody else who's there. And
In small groups, just so you
in
don't
small
get
groups.
overwhelmed.
Yeah,
In
in small
small
groups.
groups, it's going to
In small
feel
groups.
small and intimate. And then it's also going to, you can sit back, and because we'll be having amazing speakers as well. So it's a little bit of everything.
And for those of you who came to our boot camp in June, this is boot camp on steroids. Um, that's all I can say about that. And be on the lookout for your email to be able to register for it. Emails will be coming out at the end of the week. And is there anything else that you would like to say, Catherine?
Oh, this is just wonderful. And I just want to put a plug in for this show. This is Gail's show, Lipedema Wellness Conversations with Gail and Friends. And she's got our coaches. We have an amazing collective of collaborative of coaches. And Gail will be bringing them all on to this show. It's Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. That's 7654 Pacific Time. And it's whatever it
5,
is in
6.
Europe, and then in New Zealand and South Africa and Australia and Tasmania, you know,
But
everywhere.
for those of you who are either super duper morning early risers or who are on a different time zone, a non USA time zone, right? We are also going to have on the 4th Tuesday, I will be meeting with some of our coaches at 9 a.m. Eastern. And so that will give those those members of our community who are in Europe and South Africa, it will give them maybe a better time to catch us live. And those of you guys who are in the United States who don't mind, getting up a little early because it's 7 o'clock a.m. my time, it's not that bad. Join us for that too. You never know. Um, but that's the fourth Tuesday of the month, but all the rest of them are going to be 7 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays.
So do mark this on your calendar as a regular. I'm going to be here watching and listening as I'm doing whatever else that I'm doing you know, with all of the different friends that Gail brings on. Because she told
And
me she's planning to bring on community members. So you
right,
might be tapped. She
in
might
fact,
be sending you a text any moment.
right. Not only that is I just want to let you know that next week, next Tuesday, I'll be talking to Carrie Reedy from Perth, Australia. We're going to get her whys on why she became a nutritionist and why she works with us here at Lipedema Simplified to help our community members find a dietary treatment for lipedema. It's been fascinating working with her for the last year. And those of you who know her go, oh yeah, Carrie, you guys know Carrie. So anyway, I look forward to seeing you next week. However, I haven't seen enough hearts. I only have 9 hearts. I want more hearts. Smash that heart button on Facebook, smash the heart button, and on YouTube, give me some thumbs up. We can do that, right?
Oh,
There's
here it comes.
11.
They're coming.
Come
They're coming.
on,
They're
you
coming.
guys. I know you. You can do this. 14. Can you guys beat your record? The record's 18. Come on, you can do it.
Oh my God. Isn't
Maybe
she fun?
not. Maybe not. And if you have 15, woo! If you haven't subscribed to our channel on YouTube, make sure that you subscribe because the more subscribers we get, the more thumbs and incoming. Rena says incoming. Come on, Bruna, you can do it. Um, but the more subscribers we get, the more hearts we get, the more thumbs up we get, the higher we go up in our ratings. And I want to go high in our ratings. Every time you see us, go high in our ratings. So anyway, with that, you guys, I love you all, and I hope to see you next Tuesday. Thank you so much, Catherine, for coming and spending time with me.
Oh, Gail, always, always a pleasure. Thank you. And
Thank
always
you.
we laugh. We
Oh my
laugh,
gosh. We laugh, we cry.
we cry, and we
17.
talk. That's the big thing, you and me. We talk a lot. Thanks, ladies.